Okay, let's talk about a brand that's so dominant, so completely everywhere, that it feels like it's always been on top. But the real story of Nike, well, that's a whole different ballgame. It's an absolutely incredible tale of risk, pure rebellion, and a bunch of wild bets that honestly had no business paying off. This is how a massive underdog built a global empire. And it all kicks off with this very strange question. How does a common kitchen appliance, and yeah, I'm talking about a broken waffle iron, somehow become the foundation for one of the most powerful brands on the entire planet? Stick around, because the answer is just incredible. So our story doesn't start in some fancy boardroom. Nope. It starts with a college paper from this young accounting student, a guy named Phil Knight. And he has this idea, he calls it his crazy idea, to import high-quality but low-cost running shoes from Japan to take on the German giants like Adidas. He ends up partnering with his old track coach, Bill Bowerman, a man who was, let's say, obsessed with one single thing, making shoes lighter and faster. And when I say their beginnings were humble, I mean it. Look at this timeline. In '64, Knight literally has to invent the company name Blue Ribbon Sports right there on the spot in a meeting just so he sounds legit. By '65, his entire business is just him selling shoes from the trunk of his car at local track meets. And then, in the '70s, we get to that waffle iron. Bowerman, desperate for a sole with better grip, grabs his wife's waffle maker, pours rubber into it, and completely ruins the appliance. But he invents the legendary waffle sole, a breakthrough that literally changed running forever. And how much capital did they need to get this whole thing off the ground? This much. $1,000. That's it. 500 from Knight, 500 from Bowerman. That was the entire initial investment. Just let that sink in for a second. But here's the thing. Their whole success with Blue Ribbon was kind of built on a shaky foundation. The relationship with their Japanese supplier, Onitsuka Tiger, it started to fall apart. So in 1971, they make this absolutely terrifying decision to cut ties and go it alone, to create their own brand from scratch. The only problem? They had no name, no logo, and pretty much no time. You have to hear this. Two of the most valuable brand assets in the history of the world were basically born out of pure panic and dumb luck. An employee just happened to suggest the name Nike after the Greek goddess of victory, right before they had to go to prink. Knight wasn't even sold on it, but the deadline was just hours away. And the logo? He paid a local design student, Carolyn Davidson, a grand total of $35. Her creation was the Swoosh, and Knight's famous first reaction? I don't love it, but I think it'll grow on me. $35. Can you even believe that? But you know, a brand needs more than just a name and a logo. It needs a soul. And Nike found its soul in this rebellious runner from Oregon named Steve Prefontaine. He wasn't just some athlete they sponsored. He was the living embodiment of their whole anti-establishment attitude. He ran with this ferocious spirit, and his raw, authentic belief in the brand gave them a kind of credibility that no amount of money could ever buy. But that early success, it didn't last. By the early '80s, Nike was in serious trouble. They totally missed the boat on the whole aerobics craze, and this company called Reebok just came out of nowhere and absolutely crushed them. Sales collapsed. The company was literally staring into the abyss, and they needed a miracle, a real game changer, just to survive. And that game changer came in the form of one of the most audacious gambles in business history. Instead of chasing trends, Nike decided to bet the entire company on a single athlete, a rookie basketball player who wasn't even the #1 draft pick, and who, by the way, actually wanted to sign with Adidas. His name, of course, was Michael Jordan. So Nike gives Jordan something nobody had ever gotten before, his own signature shoe line, the Air Jordan. But when he wears these bold black and red sneakers on the court, the NBA immediately bans them. They said it violated their uniformity of uniform rule. Now, this should have been a complete disaster. Instead, it was a gift from the heavens. You see, the NBA fined them this much, $5,000, every single time Michael Jordan stepped on the court wearing those shoes. And what did Nike do? They happily paid it, every single game. In fact, they told him to keep wearing the banned shoes. And this is where their marketing genius just explodes. They take the NBA's punishment and they flip it into the ultimate badge of honor. This tagline made the Air Jordan a symbol of rebellion. Every kid in America didn't just want the shoes, they needed them. In its very first year, the Air Jordan line brought in over $126 million. The gamble didn't just pay off, it changed the game forever. So, with the company saved from the brink, Nike was ready for its next big evolution. In 1988, They launched a slogan that would change absolutely everything. Just do it. It was so much more than an ad campaign. It was a philosophy. It transformed Nike from a company that sold shoes and shorts into a company that sold inspiration. It was this universal call to action, and it just propelled them into a completely new stratosphere. But then, in the 90s, the brand faced its biggest crisis yet. Reports started coming out exposing these horrific sweatshop conditions and child labor in their factories overseas. At first, Nike did what a lot of companies do. They denied responsibility. They argued, hey, we don't own the factories. But the public backlash was fierce, protests were everywhere, and it was seriously tarnishing the brand's image. Then, in a move that was just shocking for a giant corporation at the time, co-founder Phil Knight went public and admitted the Nike product has become synonymous with slave wages, forced overtime, and arbitrary abuse. It was a stunning pivot. Nike then published its entire factory list and started bringing in independent monitoring, setting this new, imperfect, but new standard for transparency in the whole industry. So that really painful chapter forced the company to grow up, and it really set the stage for Nike's modern strategy, doubling down on its identity by connecting with huge and often very controversial cultural moments. And in 2018, they made what was probably their boldest bet ever. They chose Colin Kaepernick, the quarterback who was basically exiled from the NFL for protesting racial injustice, to be the face of their 30th anniversary Just Do It campaign. The backlash was immediate. It was fierce. People were literally burning their shoes online. The stock price took a hit, and pretty much every critic out there declared that Nike had made a catastrophic brand-killing mistake. But then, this happened. As you can see so clearly on this chart, after that initial dip, Nike's online sales surged by an incredible 31%. The campaign was a phenomenon, and what it proved was that Nike understood its core audience, young, diverse, socially conscious, way better than anyone else. They realized they weren't just selling shoes anymore, they were selling a point of view. Which, well, brings us to today. Remember that initial $1,000 investment we talked about? This is Nike's annual revenue now, over $50 billion. The sheer scale of that journey from the trunk of a car to this is just staggering. And that massive number is backed up by complete and total cultural dominance. I mean, the Swoosh is recognized by 97% of the world. The Jordan brand, born from that insane gamble on a rookie, is now a multi-billion-dollar business all on its own. And that controversial Kaepernick ad, it's estimated to have added $6 billion to their brand value. The bets just keep on paying off. So we end up here. The Nike story is a masterclass in building a brand, in taking risks, and in the power of storytelling. But it also forces us to ask a much bigger question about the role of these giant corporations today. In a world that is so polarized, Nike's strategy of taking a stand has proven to be incredibly profitable. But it leaves all of us to wonder, what does a brand really stand for when it has to choose between all of its customers and what it claims is its conscience?